Well, sure, you've heard of polarized lenses, but are they even worth it? Well, stick around and maybe you'll have a better idea. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I am Eyeglass Tyler, an optician with SportRx, and I want to address the question, are polarized lenses worth it? And what a great question that is, a real juicy question, a juicy Q. And I think the best way to tackle this topic is to talk about first what polarized lenses even are, what it means. I'll talk about some pros and cons. I think that makes sense. I'll talk a little bit about how they're made as well, and then I will wrap up ultimately with my opinion of, are polarized lenses worth it? So, put on your seatbelt and let's get going. Let's just drive off into the sun. So let's start with, what are polarized lenses? Well, a polarized lens is a lens that has a filter that cuts glare bouncing off of other objects. We are talking glare off of the asphalt, off of other vehicles, windshields, water especially. This is the only lens feature that does this. While a typical sunglass lens will reduce light transmission, it won't cut this glare unless it's polarized. So a polarized lens does cut through this essentially useless light. There's not really much use to this reflected light. It tends to be distracting, if not annoying, and in some cases unsafe. So definitely a great option and a great feature for your everyday pair. And there are many other uses that it makes sense, and maybe though some uses that it doesn't make sense. Specific sport applications sometimes don't make sense with this. We don't have to get too deep into the weeds. Effectively, that's what you're looking at with a polarized lens. Okay, let's talk pros and cons. I went into it a little bit. Of course, you are benefiting from cutting through that annoying light, that for the most part, not usable light that's bouncing off of other objects. It usually makes for a good dark sunglass lens, so it is definitely a pro if you're looking for a good dark sunglass lens. It is a must-have for certain uses, specifically fishing. Any water sport for that matter would make a lot of sense to have a polarized lens because it helps you to see through the water and through that glare that's bouncing off of the surface of the water. Also, like I said, for general use for your all-around pair, it's a really good idea. And beyond that, for the snow, and this kind of might have a caveat there is a lot of glare bouncing off of the snow, and so it definitely would benefit you for a, let's say, driving pair if you drive in an area where it's snowy, because it'll help with that. It might not be the right solution or the right feature for snow sports, because that lack of glare might make it a little harder to see ice, to be able to discern snow from ice. That being said, there are some really good snow goggle options out there that have polarized lenses, at least semi-polarized lenses that have kind of found a good balance, but we don't have to get too into that. We've done lots of videos that you can check out where we talk a little more about that. Some cons: depth perception. Depth perception can be an issue here because it's cutting a plane of light. On the horizontal plane, that light is cut, and so it can affect your depth perception cues. And so, of course, for a lot of sport applications, it doesn't really make sense. There is less versatility in terms of colors and tint density. For the most part, it is really tough to find a lighter tint polarized lens. There are a few exceptions to this rule, namely Canon. They have some pretty wild options that let a good amount of light through but are still fully polarized. So if that's something you're interested in, there are still some options for you. Another con is that it can limit some lens features, namely lens material. I know that the thinnest lens material out there, the very high index 1.74, is not available in polarized. And so it may affect some of your options in terms of lens features, but that might not even affect you. And so maybe it's not a con, but maybe it will. So I'm gonna throw it in as a con. I don't know, seems fair. Let's talk a little bit about how polarized lenses are made. And I will admit to you at the onset here that while I have been selling polarized lenses for a very long time, and I can definitely give you guidance on why it would make sense for you and your particular pair, I am not a manufacturing company. And so I am not intimately familiar with the makeup of these lenses and how they're actually made. So I'm gonna have to rely on my notes a little bit more here. But I will say that what I've learned is that it is a chemical laminate. That's how this polarizing filter is fixed to the lens. And I can say from what I've heard, and again, I don't understand the science behind it, but there are companies who do this better than others. I know Maui Jim's whole company, their whole business is based on polarized lenses and their polarized technology. So their polarized +2 lens technology is far and above beyond better than your typical generic polarized lens. And so something to keep in mind. The chemical compound used, it is commonly made up of molecules that naturally run parallel to one another. That'd be on a horizontal axis or the horizontal plane. When applied uniformly to your lens, the molecules create a microscopic filter that absorbs any light matching their alignment. And so that would be on the horizontal plane, because that is where the majority of reflected light exists. And you want it to absorb that light so you don't have to deal with it, so you can see through it. And so that's essentially the basics of how a polarized lens filter works. Okay, so for the $1 million question, are polarized lenses worth it? Drumroll, maybe. It just depends on your needs. I think I alluded to this enough coming up to this, building up to this, with the pros and cons and where it makes sense, where it doesn't make sense. Hopefully you're able to make that decision for yourself and for what you know you need out of your particular pair. I would like to say that we, if you are still confused, would love to help you through that process. You can reach out to us. We have opticians who'd love to help you. You can even comment down below and we'll get back to you. But suffice it to say, if you are using them for any reason that would benefit from cutting that reflective light, then absolutely it's a worthwhile upgrade. And if you wouldn't benefit from it, then no, it wouldn't be worth it. There you go. Pretty well covers what you need to know about are polarized lenses worth it. Hopefully now, after I have covered what they are, what they do, a little bit of pros and cons, how they're made, right? That was fun and informational. And my little 2 cents at the end, you have a better idea of what's right for you and your particular pair. I would like to let you know that if you do decide to order from SportRx, thanks to our See Better guarantee, you never have to worry about getting something that isn't right or doesn't work for you. You can even take up to 45 days once you receive them to figure it out. Just reach out to us and we'll take care of you. Also, we have opticians who would love to help you get it right the first time, so do not hesitate to use us as a resource. We'd love to help you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was informational or helpful. If so, throw us a like because it would mean the world to me. You can check out relevant videos here, and if you subscribe, you know you're going to hear about those videos first. Also, we have great content on our social media outlets, and I would encourage you to check us out there as well at SportRx.